for meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee to order. Is there anybody with us today who would like to make a public comment before we get rolling? Mr. Horder looks like he might have something, or do you want to wait?
I can wait till the agenda.
Very good. Anybody else? Okay. And so here's where I bounce back and forth. Minutes. Found a couple of things that struck me as a little off. Did anybody else have suggestions on the minutes or differences with their recollection and what you were presented here in the packet? Pardon? Very good. Whoops, now I got to go back because I forgot the first thing. Sorry. A lot of balls to keep track of here. One of the things was under future agenda items in the minutes was having ample repositories and signage for refuse at River Life Park. Not seeing that, and I'm wondering if we could either include that on a meeting in the near future or have it, maybe the timing would be better, it's closer to spring or whatever the director feels.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I guess I thought that was more of a direction of staff to make sure that there was ample repositories and signage at River Life Park. We can do an overview of where everything is placed, but I guess I didn't take that as an action item because we do have quite a bit planned, and I think it's going to be enough down there, but I could give an overview of where it is. That's
Okay.
what was asked.
Did the person who made that suggestion want it as an agenda item or just a suggestion to make sure we have ample repositories and signage? I don't remember who said it.
I'm not sure if I said or not, but I think at least what would be helpful, I think, is just a general overview of where we're, the whole park, situation with development of the park, so where are we this spring? What's the timeline for ground, for the opening of the park? And so where are we with the development of the park itself? I think I would like to hear that sometime this spring when we anticipate.
So it's not just refuse and signage, you're talking the whole thing?
As long as you're opening up the whole River Life Park issue, I think we,
Okay.
I think that,
So,
but maybe that, we can talk about that under future agenda items when that item
For
comes
this
up on the
Jody,
agenda.
do you have a recollection on it?
It was about, Tom Neal brought it up in relation to Culver's Ice Cream having plastic.
Okay.
Oh, bricks. Having, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Bricks?
Recyclables, yeah.
Yeah, so I took that as more direction of just as they come in to make sure that we have enough, and if we don't, then we will make sure we do have enough. I didn't know that it needed to actually be
good?
discussed.
Okay, and then sometime as spring approaches, assuming it is going to approach, we can get on, have a kind of a general report on Riverside Park, or the East Riverfront, rather. The one that struck me was the motion, and it's given here. It's motion by Gesselman, second by Neal, to move forward with planning to have testing done at Riverside Park and have the city environmental engineer review and provide an overview of the studies available and put out a request for a proposal to hire an environmental consultant, which would take all that documentation and put it together. And I think all that kind of went by the wayside when Mr. Lindman stepped up and said, how about we do an environmental, phase one environmental assessment, because that would kind of wrap all that stuff up. So I would welcome recollections of others, but I did contact Mr. Lindman, and he said that the city has hired REI Engineering, and we're able to do this quickly as the phase one environmental assessment will cost less than $5,000. We thought we would be able to have the draft assessment prepared by February, but our conversations with REI are telling us this would not be enough time, In fact, we'll be struggling to have all the information put together for March. And there's other stuff going on there. And it said, Kevin Fable, the city's environmental engineer, is heavily involved with REI and leading the phase one from the city management side. Kevin typically does not complete phase ones as they require extensive time in the overall picture. These are not very expensive to contract out. Kevin will be reviewing the document once in draft form to ensure it is in compliance with the criteria and the deliverable is what we asked for and are paying to receive. So I think we should go back and I think that's what we directed, to have the phase one thing. So we can go back and amend the minutes to read that and I think it was an adaptation of Alderman Gisselman's original suggestion that we kind of shift a little bit and go with the phase one environmental assessment. So it would still be attributed to you, but it wouldn't be.
Well, but
How do you feel about this?
The wording says specifically to planning to have testing done. I don't know that the testing done is part of the phase one environmental project.
Phase one environmental assessment won't put any holes in the ground at all.
But will there be planning done with regard to further testing in that? And I think that that's more of an historical approach. I'm not sure that there's future planning as part of that. And I think the motion is specifically speaks to planning to move forward with planning to have testing done at Riverside Park.
Okay, I think we get well, she can chime in too, but I think we get the environmental assessment, and then we will know better how to move forward with possible testing. Ms. Polly, have thoughts on this?
Well, I think, so we record the minutes each time. We can go back and just double check of what the actual wording was if it's different than this. I think what ended up coming out of this is the request for proposals for that phase one is the first step in planning to have testing done. I think the ultimate goal is that, or the ultimate thought from this committee that came out of there is that further testing will be done at the park. But in order to get to that and how many holes need to be done, how many tests need to be taken, and where to take it needs to start with just the phase one, which won't give us that information, but that will lead to whether or not a phase two might be recommended, which would give you that recommendation. So even though I think that it says planning to have testing done, maybe that needs to be worded better just to say the first step in planning.
Well, I think I don't know that we want to tinker with that. I think that this pretty much stays, as put, how that comes about in the future is fine. But I think that's the reason for the motion, I think, was specifically with regard to those wording, and how we move forward with that is fine, but I don't know that I want to, at this point in time, tinker with that motion.
Okay. How about if we have them review the audio record and come back? I think the minutes should reflect that we agreed with Director of Public Works Lindman's suggestion to go ahead with a phase one environmental assessment.
Yes, I think it needs to be clear that it seemed like there was consensus that testing was indeed wanted from the committee. And that does not mean that, we can't have the phase one, effort done. It's reasonable to do it. I just, considering some of the experiences we've seen in the availability or lack thereof of documentation in the phase one searching of public records, I wouldn't want the phase one to just, we couldn't find anything that really was definitive, so I don't really see a need to do anything more. I don't want that to happen because I think we've had enough outcry and enough concern voiced that we have a goal of achieving testing. There's some turning of soil that's going to be happening in that park at some point. We need to be smart about that, and we need to respond to concerns brought to us, not simply from a Phase 1 assessment and leave it there. I want to make sure that planning for testing doesn't go by the wayside.
Okay. I think that is in keeping with the minutes, but is it acceptable to the committee to have audio record reviewed and augment that discussion or motion a little bit to specify that there was a Phase 1 environmental assessment directed?
To add that.
I don't think you can do that to the, I mean, that was something that may have came later or something. I don't think you can tinker with that.
We can't tinker with it, but why don't we just have them bring it back?
Recording.
Well, that's fine, but.
I guess I would like them to review the recording, and maybe we could just come back at the next meeting with a clarification on it, if there is.
Review the minutes at that time.
Yeah, because there's no mention here about a Phase 1. So,
I would move that we table approval of the minutes until that happens.
very good.
Correct. We will let staff review that, and if it comes back that we recorded exactly what the audio said, we will let you know that as well.
Then I would ask, when they do review the minutes, I don't remember making the motion to allow dogs on leashes in the Eau Claire River Conservancy. I wouldn't mind being credited with that motion, but I'm not sure it was mine, so if you could check on that too. Very good. I'm going to go right into the amendment of the code regarding the enforcement stuff.
I think this is more of a housekeeping item that came forward from our chief ranger, who's been working with the city attorney. She reviewed this as well. So this is an amendment to city code, chapter, or section 9.20.02, subdivision 0, O, not 0, O. And basically it was a small addition of the highlighted area on your attachment where it says no person shall disregard posted rules or regulations or engage in any activity contrary to posted notice. This gave that section just a little bit more teeth, that if there is a sign posted that it can be enforced. Like I said, it's more of a housekeeping item for him to do it. From here, it gets approved by this committee, goes to city council for approval, which will be added to an amendment that was added by the city council back in August of 2013, which is the bottom part of the director. One thing that the department didn't do was take this full amendment to the county board for approval, because we have the joint Marathon County Code for parks, and they mirror each other. We need to update our county code in conjunction with the city code. So we're here first, and then the same update will be taken on the county side in April or May.
Move to approve.
Very good. Second? Nothing second. Thank you.
Question.
Yes,
Was there
Mr. Key.
a certain incident or something that led to this revised proposal? Or just tidying up the books, so to speak?
I think he's just tidying up the books because he's updating a few of the ordinances that he works with based on his experience. So.
One thing and I believe, I remember a little bit of the conversation way back when this was passed, but just wondered if the rest of the committee are comfortable with the portion of the ordinance that says the decision of the director to exclude individuals from the use of parks facilities shall be final. And I think the rest of that language means there's no appeal. That there's no, if the director, after staff advises the director of certain behavior, if the director decides to exclude that individual, they don't have any way to appeal that. I'm just wondering if everybody's comfortable with that. Hearing nobody uncomfortable?
I'm a little uncomfortable.
Well, this was approved by the Parks and Rec Committee, like I said, August 13th of 2013, went to the City Council for approval. So if you want more information, then we'd have to have our Chief Ranger discuss what that was back then. But that's not what's for discussion tonight.
I think the discussion way back when was that the decision in a case like this needs to be swift, and it can't be dragged out. Somebody can't be granted admissions, and I think it was mainly the 400 block was the concern. The person can't continue to be admitted to that property if they are, if they have an exclusion order or whatever you want to call it pending. And it seemed like it'd be the most efficient and efficacious way to do it.
I have no
We're good?
problem with that, with the way it stands. Having been on the committee since that time, there was certain reasons why it was stated as such, and it's a very, very small, narrow area as to what the behaviors were. But if our representative could refresh the current members as to the reasonings, that would be agreeable with me, but otherwise I don't see any reason to change that.
Do I hear table it to the next meeting and have staff come in and further discussion?
I think that's probably a good idea. In my creative mind, I can imagine something where a person was unfairly kicked out of a facility, upon further review.
Yeah, could happen. Okay, motion to table, I'm attributing that to Mr. Neal. Second to that?
Motion to table what? The
Motion
conversation
to
was to
table
update.
the entire matter, the whole package, I would think.
You had a motion and a second based on the amendment in question. So is that nullified and now you're tabling it? Is that the idea?
Could be, the vote
Well-
goes that way. We table it into our next meeting.
Then the original motion.
I would table it, and I would encourage a little discussion with city attorney to, again, address the potential for what should be maybe an appealable offense, but is not subject to appeal because the decision is final. And I just don't think that maybe that's the best way for us to exert our authority.
So is the cleanest way to do this, have the maker of the original motion withdraw it and Mr. Gissel?
Can I make a suggestion? I would
Why,
think
sure.
that the original agenda item speaks specifically to the ordinance. I think the larger issue can maybe be agendized as a separate issue at another time. I think the colored part, with regard to posting, posted rules and all, I think we can do that now, but I think Tom is really looking for some discussion with regard to the whole gist of that, and
The
just
final
needs,
decision part of it.
and we just need to revisit that and to talk about that again, but I think that can maybe be agendized as a separate issue, and we can still deal with the agendized issue as it brought forward today. I don't know, it depends on how you want to deal with it.
We could have a motion to amend the original motion, drop the tabling business, have a motion to amend the original motion to come back with further discussion.
You can get a second.
The tabling didn't get a second, so that's, okay. So we still have, was that a motion by Neil?
I just have the original one down.
Who started us out? Somebody over there?
Yeah.
Tom, was that your motion to approve the ordinance?
Initially, yes.
Okay,
And Nutting seconded it.
okay. Would you like to alter your motion in any way so that we approve this, but have further discussion on the portion of the ordinance that deals with
Are we,
the final decision?
are we simply then talking about the no person shall disregard posted rules and
Yeah,
regulations?
we'll take care
or
of that.
engage in any activity
Yeah,
contrary to,
get that-
period?
Move that down the road. but
I
then
have
come
no
back.
problem with that.
Mr. Chair, we wouldn't move this down the road, because if we're going to amend this ordinance, we would do it all at one time. It's the same subsection, so you could make a motion to approve the highlighted portion that was brought forward to you tonight, but then I guess a second motion would be in order to bring back the 2013 amendment to this subsection for further discussion. Because that,
Well, my request went beyond that because I really wanted to have that second highlighted portion re-reviewed by city attorney to address my concern about the lack of appealability.
correct, that was the 2013 motion that was passed. And that is not in question tonight. This bottom part is what's going to the county board for the county updating, because this portion was approved by the city council on August 13th of 2013. I have the.
Why is it
council notes.
highlighted? I'm sorry.
Because that just shows you the process. If you scroll down, Jody, this is showing you, no, up, sorry. This is showing you the motion, the process, no, not quite that far, sorry, just right there. This sheet that I've added, and maybe that was my mistake to confuse you, I apologize for that. The sheet that was added, it shows you the process of why a city ordinance needs to be amended first, and then it goes to the county board for a county ordinance, because these two have to be hand in hand. And what we failed to do on the county side was, after the amendment to this O, which includes this bottom highlighted portion right there, it was approved by the city council on August 13th, 2013. We failed on our part to take that update to the county to make the county ordinance mirror the city ordinance. So now that John wants to update that same subsection with the smaller highlighted part, we will take both sections to the county to make it equal. The city already approved this section up on top back in 2013. The only change to it today for your motion is the highlighted part. On the county side, we have to make it equal, which we didn't do in 2013. So if you want it all reviewed, we can bring it back, but from a city perspective, that's what was approved. Now we need to make it equal on the county side, so I'm sorry.
Okay, no, thank you for your explanation. I wasn't in a seat here in that year. I'm sure I probably would have asked the same question at that time then. The finality of it bothers me, and if we have no recourse, or if we have to, restart the engine, I don't know. Certainly, the single sentence addition is fine by me.
So if we approve the ordinance with the motion that stands, we could act on that, and we can come back. We have a second motion to have staff review with us the part of it about the finality of the decision.
The 2013 motion.
Yeah. Okay. Want to go that route?
But
Yes, sir.
then I think because this should eventually be mirroring, both of these should be mirroring. So if the top part of the Wausau ordinance is under some discussion, I don't think we should, and maybe that's a county issue then too, but, I think we should just wait until both wordings is completely resolved and everything is good. I don't know, Jamie, how to...
Well, our plan, because after we go through the city process, then it goes to the County Parks Commission and up to the county board. So if, as far as the county's concerned, this bottom part of the decision of the director hasn't been approved on the county side. So our county ordinance does not mirror
Right.
the city ordinance. So we could wait to take, if you would like us to come back and review what was discussed in 2013, we can do that, and then we would not take this to the County Parks Commission for approval to mirror it until we've got that figured out. Yeah.
Yeah, County Park Commission Chair is kind of an ornery guy anyway, so you don't want to cross him.
Could somebody translate the last sentence of O for me? Where the city elects not to be bound? From that part on, what are the provisions of Chapter 68 of Wisconsin statutes with respect to administrative procedure?
I think we need to find that out from the attorney, but I think it has to do with the right of persons to appeal
appeal,
such
right.
decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems a little
Yeah.
odd to me, so.
We're not going to we're not going to do that other thing, so. So am I hearing, let's hold the whole thing and, Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Okay, so your motion is to table this for a month?
We're getting not much done tonight, are we?
Well, the motion would be to have staff review the 2013 motion, not to table it, because the discussion tonight isn't that amendment. It's only the small amendment. So the motion should be to come back and review the 2013 ordinance change to this, which would include the highlighted area.
And then after we review it, we would consider the whole thing?
Yeah, we'll bring both changes back, highlighted, just like this bottom shows that we would take to the county. We'd bring them back that way.
Okay, so motion to have staff review this and bring it back?
Okay.
Is that yours? And the second, I think that was Mr. Nutting. Good with that? Very good. Whew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We get to vote on something. Yay. All those opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Number 5, we've rearranged things a little bit, and is the addendum item of discussion and possible action approving the recognition of a sponsor on a shelter in the JoJo's Jungle portion of Brockmeyer Park. And Ms. Polly, you want to kick this off?
Sure, thank you. This is being brought forward just as a possible option for Mr. Horder for the JoJo's Jungle. He has a potential donor that is willing to possibly put some money towards the shelter area that they have in the design, with the possibility of putting the sponsor's name on the shelter. We do have our city municipal code, same chapter, just a different subsection, subsection C, which talks about the advertisement. Now, this has been something that the committee can choose to allow. At some point, staff will be bringing back a full sponsorship donation program to the Parks Committee and the Parks Commission on the county side to be used for different park improvements and that sort of thing. We just don't have anything particularly in place at this time. However, this type of activity has been approved for River Life. We did sell donations of items and places and facilities and pieces of equipment for River Life with the option to put sponsors' names on there. On the county side, we have done the same thing for East Bay Sports Complex. So we are asking the county to consider allowing this option as a possible option for JoJo's Jungle.
Mr. Horder, could you come up and flesh this out from your end of it?
I'm Patrick Herter. I live at 5812 Weston Meadows Pass in Schofield, Wisconsin. Jamie said it pretty accurately. I had a conversation last week with a business owner here in Wausau. They've been established for many, many years, and the idea just happened to come to mind in our conversation of them sponsoring a particular feature. The picnic shelter in JoJo's Jungle is a sturdy wooden metal roof structure with lighting in it, and I thought that their logo would go nicely placed if they were to consider sponsoring this feature and its installation. In the gable portion of it, maybe like a wood engraved thing with their colors on it. The logo is very appealing. It's nothing that would be gaudy and would stick out, but thought would be a very tasteful way to honor their particular donation to this feature. So I know I had brought this up to the former director, Bill Duncanson, for another feature in JoJo's Jungle. It was a $400,000 playground piece, but the sponsor that we had for that chose not to go forward with that donation, so we just sort of tabled the whole idea, never formally requested that from the council. But this idea was well received, so I believe further discussion would take place and possible action very quickly. Just wanted to make sure that it was an actual approved idea from the council before I move forward.
Comments from the committee? Thoughts? Questions?
It sounds approvable to me. I would move to approve.
Second?
Second here, right?
Second, Mr. Nutting. Questions, comments? The only, and this is, I guess, got really nothing to do with the committee, but it's more on your end. Are you going to be able to convey to the viewer or the visitor that what was sponsored was the shelter, not the whole expanse?
We have, for particular, you can not, I don't know if you'd call it sponsorship, but there is recognition for donating features to other parts of the playground, particular playground play features. The manufacturers have plaques that can go on or near the piece of equipment honoring a donation for that particular piece. We have that already available from the Noon Optimist Club and another one for the Zip Cruise from a nationwide donor. The main park, the main entrance to the playground will have JoJo's Jungle name, giving the name to the actual playground itself recognition. This feature would just be over the picnic shelter, and it wouldn't. I wouldn't see it as oversized or causing confusion really in that regard. It would just be a logo. And the reason I chose this particular piece is because, to use a sales quote, it's a synergistic particular feature in the park with their line of business. So I think they would find it tasteful and everybody'd kind of make the connection in their minds. Then they wouldn't say, oh, this whole park is particularly that business.
Okay. Would the committee like to see a drawing or illustration of this before they go forward, or are we good?
Well, you know, we've already accepted that seeking sponsorship in our park system is something that's desirable, and we've even had, you know, shopping lists put out to that effect for naming rights and things of that nature. So I guess it would be nice to see it, you know, if we're afraid that it might be gauche and horrible, but I doubt it would be. So my motion is just to approve.
Very good. Any other comments, questions?
The only question I had, Mr. Chair, was how is there a look for the actual park entrance? Does it give any indication that it is a City of Wausau overall? Is it just the land that is, what contribution is the actual city parks and recreation putting into the whole? How would you envision the entrance sign, Ms. Polly?
Well, the city will be taking over the playground once it's constructed. It'll be donated to the city, and the city will be maintaining it. It's set back. The plan for the playground is set back behind the parking area over near the shelter, over to the west side of the shelter. So we still have the big sign of Brockmeyer Park along the road of Satine Drive. So I think that it's just going to be considered more of a feature of the park.
Okay.
The entrance to the park will be specific to the playground entrance. I don't think it will take anything away from the park itself. The park will very much still be known as Brockmeyer. So.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, committee? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? Thank you very much. That passes.
Thank you.
And we can toss it to Ms. Polly for educational items, et cetera, et cetera. Take it away.
Well, each month I do put in the agenda summary, just a project update of where we've been. As you can see, this time most of it's winter or lack thereof, winter related. We were able to make the ice rink at the 400 block for Winterfest. If you look at it today, it looks more like a swimming pool than an ice rink, but it's there. We were able to open Sylvan tubing this year, but some of these really cold days have caused us to shut it down. If the wind chill, we have a policy that if the wind chill plus the temperature combined is less than 20 degrees, we shut down the ice rinks. We carry that over to the tubing hill as well, because we have quite a few staff that stand out there in that cold, not only to protect them, but also to protect patrons. Hopefully we can get it back open. I did go on it this year with my children, and I wore my ski helmet because that night it went really fast and I was really scared. But it was really fun. The kids loved it.
Did you make it all the way to the bottom?
We made it almost all the way to the top of the berm. It was that
Excellent.
So if you want to go when it's faster, it's when that temperature drops, it starts to become very fast. We're working on some new fishing piers, and then it's routine maintenance, trying to keep up with whether it's rain, snow, sleet, some tree pruning items that we're catching up on, which lack of snow has helped with. And then some program updates. Winterfest did happen on that really cold weekend, so they did have it still, but the participation was probably lower than they wanted. But the snow sculpture is down there, and if this freezes, the ice rink will still be there, and we'll open it as well as long as we have ice. And then just something coming forward is we're working with the city clerk's office to change the reservations of the 400 block. If it's a basic reservation where it's not an event open to the public that requires a special use permit, it's going to be treated like any other park shelter, which there's very few of those. So the reservations really don't change. It's just going to start in our office, and then the special use permit will be triggered and come through the same process that it does today. It just lessens the confusion because we do have the staff that knows what's down there as far as electrical hookups, needs. They can start the conversation and then communicate back with the city clerks. Otherwise, there's an extra step in there. So nothing significant.
Questions from the committee? Wondering about Tom Field. We're going to get ice over there?
We are not at this point.
We don't have it now.
We don't have it now. We don't have it at Marathon Park either. Typically, our ice rinks are over within the next 2 weeks. And with the forecast of how it was and the amount of effort it takes to make ice, we don't feel that it's worth it. And you're right, right now it's raining, so it would have not froze anyway. So
Those
I
plans are scrubbed.
do not think so. We will plan to do it though again next year as the weather hopefully is normal.
What a bust. Okay. Okay, did program update? Are we at future agenda items?
Yes.
The agenda says Riverside Park soil testing. We are going to delve into that, I believe, after we get our phase 1 environmental assessment, and we're going to schedule the baseball complex discussion.
Correct. We did have RFPs that were approved to go out for a possible feasibility study of the baseball complex at Brockmeyer Park. We got 9 firms that gave proposals back in, so the Baseball Association is currently reviewing those proposals, and it will be up to them whether they want to propose funding that proposal and bring it back. At this point, there is no request for funding from the city, but that they plan to bring that back, whether they want to move forward or not, even as an update to the Parks Committee in March.
Very good. Anything from members? Yes, sir.
Going back to Riverside, what exactly then are the expectations for March 11th, the committee, there's going to be a committee of the whole then? Is that correct?
We're going to deal with the Riverside Park stuff at our 5:30 session. And we're going to, by that time, we will have, with any luck at all, we will have in hand the Phase 1 environmental assessment. I hope it's not as long as the one on Cleveland Avenue. But I think we'll be able to, I think it'll be fairly clear to us what our next step is going to be. I've asked Director of Public Works Lindman to be with us, and I would expect that we're going to be looking at that and saying, okay, we need an environmental consultant to decide where these borings are going to be done and what we're going to be looking for, and go from there. But when we do that, the DNR hydrogeologist will be here, the 2 state toxicologists will be here, the guy from, I'm assuming it's the guy from REI is going to be here, and the Director of Public Works is going to be here. So we're going to have plenty of expertise in the room to help us make a good decision.
We
Yes,
have, the committee of the whole scheduled for right after at 7, but it seems to me there could be subject matter in our 5:30 meeting of interest to the committee of the whole. Certainly we should issue a potential for a committee of the whole starting as early as
There
5:30.
could be a quorum of the entire city council.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
And I'm just, to that point, I'm kind of wondering why we have to have that dichotomy. Why not have, just run the whole thing as a single program? If we call in the cow at 5:30, we do the committee's work, in the presence of the cow, and then transition into the cow,
The council president is not available until 7.
okay?
And I didn't want to delay it any more. I wanted to have it March 11th. Mr. Mayor,
You stole some thunder from me as far as that Lisa will not be here till 7 o'clock that night. My main thing in trying to get this brought is that all of you hear everything at the same time, all in one shot. If you've got any questions, concerns for these folks, our environmental engineer from the city will also be here at that time too, addressing
Kevin.
Kevin
Very
Fable.
This is why I'm encouraging.
No, and this is so
a
important,
cow.
and this is,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be candid, maybe because I'm just really tired, but when people miss cows, it's really irritating because they come back and say they don't hear things. Or talk about, say, for example, this is not on the agenda, for example, different infrastructure and stuff like that. I had a cow last week, I had 4 members here. And it's so important that folks hear this stuff. I know everybody is busy, but these cows are set up in enough advance notice for people to hear as far as what's going on. So strongly encourage everybody to be there at these committee of the wholes, because that's the reason why we have them, is so that you folks are kept informed as what's happening, as is the general public while things are being filmed live.
Right. Well, to that end, that's why I'm saying that informing all the members of council that the 5:30 meeting is going to have information possibly that they'd all be interested in, and, they're welcome to attend.
I think
Rather
that's a
than
very
waiting until
good
7 o'clock.
suggestion. Very good suggestion, that we make a special effort to invite
Yeah.
the other half a dozen people
Right.
to join
Also, I
us.
just
for
want to
that
make sure
meeting.
we have, that phase 1 as soon as possible when it's available for us to review, because if it is even half as long as the previous one we looked at for Cleveland, that we have some time to look at it and come in here maybe with questions rather than having it dropped on us.
Very good.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, when I plan for the March 11th agenda, it looks like, we have possibly the baseball complex. If we do an overview, we can do an overview of River Life Park that was mentioned earlier, the city code items. Should I put all of those first on the agenda and then have the soil testing the last item on the agenda, so maybe it's closer to that 7 o'clock timeframe?
I think that'd be good.
Okay, we can do that.
Mr. G?
Well, just with regard to, I think both of them, both our experts or our people in the know will be present at both the park committee as well as the committee of the whole, then at 7. I'm wondering what the difference between the two committee meetings is
We're
going to be.
drawing a line between the park and, those issues, what to do in the park.
Right.
And what the situation is in the entire corridor where 800 people live.
So the larger committee of the whole is dealing with the corridor, the neighborhood.
Right. And so we did want to keep that separate.
I understand.
And that, and the idea of the committee of the whole was to encourage everybody to attend and get the full dose of information and,
Thank you for that.
yeah. And I think it'll also, I think it'll be perhaps seen as the public, by the public as a better opportunity to ask questions than a committee might be. And so I want the questions to happen. So,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
May I suggest another idea is, what if we had the Parks Committee meeting start at 6 to take care of the other items, and then could the Parks Committee recess at 7, and then both the park be discussed and the rest of the corridor discussed, and then the Parks Committee could reconvene after the Committee of the Whole if any action wanted to be taken on the park specific? Is that an option, or I don't?
It seems to be an option, because if any action is kind of required by the committee, we can take that action as a body, even in the presence of the cow, so.
Because then you can discuss all Riverside area, Thomas Street at 7 with the committee of the whole.
So the agenda would specify that we may reconvene after the committee of the whole?
If action is needed, similar when you go into closed session, maybe.
Sure, it'd be good to have that option. You know, I'm hoping that things are going to be straightforward enough that in that time span between 5:30 and 7, we're going to be able to take care of business.
And not talk about the Riverside Park during that, from that 6 to 7, but include that with the committee of the whole, as Mr. Neal
I think we should stick with a 5:30 because we got people coming up here from Madison and they need to drive home.
They're not going to be here for the 7 o'clock cow?
They are going to be, but that could run a couple of hours fairly easily. And I haven't broached the idea of them staying overnight or how they feel about that. I just asked them if they could be present for a 7 o'clock meeting as well as the 5:30 meeting, and they said yes. I'd like to stick with the 5:30 Parks, 7 o'clock Committee of the Whole. With the opportunity, if Parks needs to reconvene, have that opportunity. Good?
I respect your position as chair, and I won't contest that. My only thinking is by dovetailing into the cow with the parks testing question, that we have a better opportunity perhaps to have more people hear it, as the mayor said, so people are like, well, I never heard about that, it wasn't. And all this happened, 40 minutes before they got here for their meeting, and we're already done with it. That's why I'm saying to dovetail closer to the cow makes sense, because we'll have more people on hand to hear this stuff so they don't have to catch up later. I mean, this is why Jamie, I think, was asking, why let's put it towards the end of the agenda so that more people could be here to experience it.
Other thoughts on that? I'm not in love with the 5:30, but, that was the way that I've notified people that that's when we were going to start, and I can get back to them and say, no, 6 o'clock.
We're just carrying back to what you're saying, doubling, adding that whole thing into that 7 o'clock agenda or whatever just does delay the whole evening for our visitors. So if we get one thing completed before 7 o'clock and then move on to the larger issues at 7 o'clock with the experts, then at least they don't have to regale the park issue or phase 1 at that time. We can invite the rest of the city council. Everybody sees the agenda. The public will see the agenda. I think everybody hopefully will be aware of what's being talked about.
So you're leaning towards sticking with the 5:30?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. I think 5:30 wins. Anything else? Motion to adjourn would be in order. Mr. Neal? Somebody else? Mr. Smith? Would you like to second that one? Thank you very much. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and service.
Should I still put later on the agenda?
Pardon?